welcome back to All About the Alternative and another edition of the Outburst game. So, if you're new to my channel, what this is it's all about this card reader. I found this Outburst game at one point last year that gives me a bunch of cards and a bunch of topics that we can use for some content as well, but I also thought we could do this as a game. And it's a game, not a contest. There's no prizes to be won here. It's all just, let's just have a little fun. I'm going to name off these items from this card, and if you get them all right, take some bragging rights in the comment section and tell everybody that you got them all right. And if you have any additional ones that you can think of course, they may be for use for a topic in the future as well. However, so this is the card reader. This is basically how this works. This is the card reader, and you put the card into the card reader like so, and it gives me the 10 items that are on this card. And to play along with me, you can, after I give you the name of the topic on this card, which you've probably already got from the title of this of the title page anyway, and the thumbnail, you'll already know what it is. But you can pause your screen at this point and, of course, write down your 10 answers. And after my title screen comes up now, I'll give you the answer, and then we'll discuss what they are. And I'm going to put a little Canadian or other spin on it with some other extras that I've added on. Okay, so here we go. This is the title of this one. This one is actually called Famous Painters. A little surprise here. There are no females in this one. So you're looking for all men famous painters, and I'm going to do a separate one on women in the future. Let's look at male painters. Be right back. Welcome back. So, if you've written down your 10 answers, which is all famous painters, and of course, as I said, these are all going to be men, all male painters, and we are going to look at a separate video in the future, which will be about female painters and some information about those. So bear with me on that. We will get to them. I do have lots of them to add for that, and there was lots of them I could have done for this video, but we're just, you know, I don't want to make it an extra long video, so we'll just do it this way. Anyway, on with the show here. So, of course, we have famous painters. Let me know if you get them all right by putting it in the comments below, and here's the number of the 10 items. Number 1 is Monet. Number 2 is Manet. Number 3 is Degas. 4 is Picasso. 5 is El Greco. 6 is Rembrandt. 7 is Da Vinci. 8 is Michelangelo, 9 is Gainsborough, and 10 is Van Gogh. So there you go. Did you get them all right? If you did, like I said, put some bragging rights down below in the comment section, and let us know you got them all right. And perhaps you've had these cards in the past, because these cards are definitely very old cards. But if you got them all right, take some bragging rights on that. No problem there. But we're going to discuss some of these painters because, of course, they're famous for a lot of paintings. Most people do know most of their paintings. For some of these were a surprise to me because I did a little learning while I was at it, and that's kind of the fun of this. I get to learn a little bit about some of these things, some information about their time frame of living in different things. I may do a separate video in the future about different the time periods of these as well, so I'd like to do that, but for right now we're just going to cover the actual the names that are on this card and a few more, but we're not going to cover any controversial issues about these or these people, but that's one of the parts of this format that I'm using here, is just to name what they are and little information about their past. I'm only going to give the dates of when their date of birth and of the year of birth and the year of their death, because it'll be time consuming if I went on and I did all of them and all of that detail. So number 1 on our list is Claude Monet. otherwise known as Oscar Claude Monet, was a French painter and founder of Impressionism painting, who is seen as a key to modernism, especially in his attempt to paint nature as he perceived it. He was born in 1940 and lived to 1926. Number 2 on our list is Edouard Monet. Edouard Monet was a French modernist painter. He was one of the first 19th century artists to paint modern life, as well as a pivotal figure in the transition from realism to impressionism. He was born in 1832 and lived to 1883. Number 3 on our list is Edgar Degas. Edgar Degas was a French impressionist artist famous for his pastel drawings and oil paintings. Degas also produced bronze sculptures, prints, and drawings. Degas is especially identified with the subject of dance. More than half of his work depicts dancers. He was born in 1834 and lived to 1917. Number 4 is Pablo Picasso. And he was a Spanish painter, sculptor, printmaker, and ceramicist, and theater designer who spent most of his adult life in France. He was born in 1881 and lived to 1973. Number 5 is El Greco. Most widely known as El Greco, was a Greek painter, sculptor, and architect of the Spanish Renaissance, regarded as one of the greatest artists of all time. He was born in 1941 and lived to 1614. Number 6 on our list is Rembrandt. Was a Dutch Golden Age painter, printmaker, draughtsman. He was in general considered one of the greatest visual artists of history of Western art. He was born in 1605 and lived to 1669. Number 7 is Leonardo da Vinci. Was an Italian polymath of the High Renaissance who was active as a painter, draughtsman, engineer, scientist, theorist, sculptor, and an architect. He was born in 1452 and lived to 1519. Number 8 is Michelangelo. Was an Italian sculptor, painter, architect, and poet of the High Renaissance. Born in the Republic of Florence, his work was inspired by models from classical antiquity and had a lasting influence on Western art. He was born in 1475 and lived to 1564. Number 9 on our list is Thomas Gainsborough. He was an English portrait and landscape painter, draughtsman, and printmaker. Along with his rival Sir Joshua Reynolds, he is considered one of the most important British artists of the second half of the 18th century. And he was born in 1727 and lived to 1788. Number 10 is Vincent van Gogh. Vincent William van Gogh was a Dutch post-impressionist painter who is among the most famous and influential figures in the history of Western art. In just over a decade, he created approximately 2,100 artworks, including around 860 oil paintings, most of them in the last 2 years of his life. He was born in 1853 and lived to 1890. As you may have guessed, in some cases for some of these, I didn't give the entire full name. There's one especially here. I'm going to go into a little further detail in a later episode here because there's probably a lot more that we can deep dive into some of the pictures and something like that. I've shown a few pictures here that I will be showing to show off some of the works of these, but I feel that it doesn't do justice enough to actually show. I'd love to be able to show more, and maybe there'll be some other things that I can possibly do in the future. Okay. Another one that I've added to this list as another one as well is Thomas Kinkade. And William Thomas Kinkade III was an American painter of popular realistic, pastoral, and idyllic subjects. He is notable for archiving success during his lifetime with a mass marketing of his work as printed reproduction and other licensed products by means of Thomas Kinkade Company. He was born in 1959 and he passed in 2012. Next up on my addition to this original list is actually I'm adding in Andy Warhol as well, was an American visual artist, film director, and producer. A leading figure in the pop art movement, Warhol is considered one of the most important American artists of the second half of the 20th century as well. And he was born in 1928 and passed in 1987. Now we get to the other, my spin of it, which is, of course, as being Canadian, I'm adding in a Canadian spin. As most of these cards actually seem very American-oriented, of course, and so I'm adding in a Canadian spin, sometimes a female spin. And as I said, another video will be done in the future, which will actually have the female spin to it, which will be all female artists, because I feel that this list actually completely lacked of any kind of feminine thing to it. But that's okay. We're going to do the men on this one and the females on the next one. So this one here, of course, as a Canadian, there's the group of seven, which is all Canadian landscape painters who merged in the early 20th century. They were known for their distinctive style of celebration of the Canadian wilderness, and original members were Franklin Carmichael, Lauren Harris, A.Y. Jackson, Frank Johnston, Arthur Lismer, and J.E.H. MacDonald, and Frederick Varley. And also, as a non-official member of them as well, was Tom Thompson. Let's go over that a little bit here. And Franklin Carmichael was a Canadian artist and member of the group of seven, of course, through which he was primarily famous for his use of watercolors. He's also used oil paints, charcoal, and other media to capture the Ontario landscapes. And he was born in 1890 and lived to 1945. Lauren Harris was a Canadian painter. He played a key role in the catalyst in Canadian art, as a visionary in Canadian landscape art, and in the development of modern art in Canada. He was born in 1885 and he lived to 1970. A.Y. Jackson is the next one, and he was made a significant contributor to development of art in Canada and was instrumental in bringing together the artists in Montreal and Toronto. He was born in 1882 and lived to 1974. The next one is Frank Johnston. He most commonly worked as a landscape painter, though more as a conservative mode than the other members of the group. He also used tempera rather than oil paint as in his landscapes, a fast-drying material that was more often associated with commercial art of his day. And he was born in 1888 and lived to 1949. Our next one of this group was Arthur Lismer. And he is primarily as a landscape painter and for his paintings of ships in dazzle camouflage. He was born in 1885 and he lived to 1969. Next one on the group is J.E.H. MacDonald, otherwise known as James Edward Harvey MacDonald. He was an English Canadian artist. He was asserted as a distinct national identity combined with a common heritage stemmed from early modern in Europe in the early 20th century. He was born in 1873 and he lived to 1932. The next one of the group is Frederick Varley, otherwise known as Frederick Horseman Varley, was specialized in portraiture, and he also painted landscapes. He was born in 1881 and lived to 1969. And as I said, not an official member, but this one here is Tom Thompson. He was an influence over their style and subject matter. He had a short career, but he produced roughly 400 oil sketches, on small wood panels, approximately 50 larger works on canvas. He worked consistent on almost entirely of landscapes depicting trees, skies, lakes, and rivers. He was born in 1877 and lived to 1917. I have three additional Canadian artists that I found in doing this process as well, so I'm going to add them here as well. These were Maurice Cullen, and he's considered the father of Canadian Impressionism because he was the first artist to skillfully adapt French Impressionism to Canadian conditions. He was born in 1866 and lived to 1934. And our next one is Jean-Paul Riopelle, and he was a Canadian painter and sculptor from Quebec. He had one of the longest and most important international careers of the 16 signatories of Rifus Global, and then in 1948 manifesto that announced the Quebecois artistic community's refusal of clericism and provincialism. He was born in 1923 and he lived to 2002. My last one on this list actually was a member of the group of seven as well, but he didn't join until much later, and his name is A.J. Casson. He is Alfred Joseph Casson. As I said, joined the member. He joined the group in 1926 in the invitation of Frank Ellen Carmichael, replacing Frank Johnston. And he was born in 1898 and he lived to 1992. So that's my list of all of these famous painters, and in Canada these ones would have been more famous here, of course, than probably in other places, but I'm sure most of their work has probably been seen in many places too. As A.Y. Jackson was actually the high school that I went to at one point as well here in Toronto. So there's many famous things that I'm sure that are named after many of the others as well, but that sounds pretty significant to me. So hopefully you learned a little bit about some of these artists, seen some of their works. You probably have recognized many of them in the past, in other things, maybe in other shows, other places that you may have seen them. I tried to take some of the most famous works to display some of those. But like I said before, I'd like to do a little bit more of a deep dive into some of these perhaps, and do like just a full episode about some of the actual painters and what they lived and how they were. There's lots of information that I found on most of them that I'd like to do that. So I will do that in the future. So look for that, and hopefully you can give me a like and a subscribe on this as well, and put some comments down below if there's an artist you'd like to see added to this list as well, and we could do that in the future as well. And look for my next one coming very, very soon for famous female painters. Okay, so hopefully you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.